Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Working Drawing Smart Views class. My name is Nick, and I will be doing the presentation with you today. Just like all of our previous webinars, everybody will be on mute. So if you do happen to have any questions at any point during our class, please feel free to go ahead and type that into the questions and answers area. And at the end of the class, I will go through and answer any questions that may have come up. Also, at the end of the class, I will be sending out an email that will contain a document that covers everything that we're going to be looking at in today's class. Should you happen to have any questions while going through that document, you can contact our support department. They'll be happy to help you out with any questions that may come up. So again, today's class is on working drawings. And I'm just going to go over a quick lesson overview of what we're going to cover in today's class. So in today's class, we're going to step through the insertion of smart views in the Envisioneer worksheets. We're going to be looking at working drawings and how they are created in a special and drafting environment called your worksheet views. Here you can set up and annotate your various 2D and 3D views of your model to create a complete set of construction documents. The topics that we're going to be covering today are looking at the worksheet view. We're then going to be looking at inserting our views, adding detail to those inserted views, and then updating any views with any kind of changes that we make to our model. So first, let's look at our worksheet view. So Envisioneer has two environments: the model view environment, where you construct your model, and the worksheet view environment, where you create your construction documents. These two environments are laid out in a similar fashion, but each has different content and its own specific set of tools. As you can see right now, I am still in the model view tab. So this is the common tab that you see. This is where you create your this is where you create your 3D model. When we want to move over to our working drawing sheets, we're going to simply select one of the worksheets at the bottom. And I'm just going to simply click on the floor plan option, and this will bring up the worksheet view side of Envisioneer. When you enter this worksheet view, you are no longer building the model. You are now working with 2D views of your model, such as your floor plans, your elevations, sections, and details, to create a construction set of documents. So remember to always build your model first and make sure it is complete before starting your construction documents. Once you have completed your model in your model view, you can go into your worksheet views by again selecting one of the view tabs next to the model view tab like we just did. By default, every new project contains 4 predefined worksheet view windows: the floor plan, the elevations, details, and site plan. You can again edit the properties of these windows and create new windows as needed. And if you're using your own template, you can add as many working drawing views as you would typically create in your construction drawing sets. Each worksheet can have a different view of your model on it, and you can insert multiple views on one sheet if you want. You can also add many different types of objects and information to your drawing, such as text, dimensions, lines, and shapes. And you can also import CAD files, images, and PDF files. So now we're going to be looking at inserting our views. Now, in our working drawing view environment, like I said, it is a little bit different than our model view. So you're still going to see the tab format system like you do in model, but you're going to see different options for inserting different elements within your worksheets. So we have the insert tab, which will allow you to insert your smart views, insert blocks, PDFs, DWGs, or image files. We also have a draw tab, which will allow you to draw different shapes. You can draw lines, arcs, circles. You can add in hatching if you need to as well. The modify tab will allow you to modify anything that you've inserted. So in here, you can move, rotate, duplicate, array. You can stretch, scale, trim, or fillet your different elements as well. The Tools tab will allow you to add in any kind of annotations. You'll be able to add in text, text with leaders, and all your different dimension style or dimensions as well from within here. And then just like model view, you have the help tab, which will again allow you to access all of the help documents available from within Envisioneer. I'm just going to go back to my insert tab. And then the other main differences you're going to see is the catalog is no longer available in a working drawing sheet. You're now working with the 2D design area. So you're going to see something called object properties. And whenever you select something in here, it will show the properties of that selected element. So it will show you the layer that it is on. It will show you the information for that particular selected element. So again, when I select the title block as an example, it's going to show me that that title block is on the CAD layer. And then what is that title block name? Well, the block name itself is called title block 24 by 36. And then I can adjust different properties for that specific selected element. In this case, since it is a attributed block, it's going to have an attribute section. And since it is a block, it's going to have the definition option. If I add in a line as an example, I just typed in L on my keyboard to bring up the line option. When I select a line, I'm going to see different object properties. Again, I'm going to see what the layer is, but I'm also going to have further control over the color, the line type, and the line weight. By default, these always reference whatever the layer is. So you'll see by layer, by layer, by layer. But if I want to change this, just this one line to have a different line type as an example, I can change it to be dashed. So it's no longer referring to the layer now. It is now showing as a dashed line. So again, a little bit further control over elements that you would be able to insert and see in your worksheets. Now, before we insert anything into our working drawing environment, I want to take a moment here just to reiterate that you want to make sure that your model is completely finished before you start bringing these in. Now, the reason for that is you're able to add in a lot of different information in your model views. You can add in, again, all of your elements. If you want to show your floor plans with all the furniture layouts added in, all of your cabinetry, you can also add in all of your text and all of your dimensions. So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch back to model. And again, once you have set up your worksheet and you are ready to insert a view of your model onto your worksheet, you're going to want to make sure that, again, you have everything added in. So in here, what we're going to do is back in our model view, we can see that the floor plan is visible. And I have added in text already. So I can see the room names already added in. But what I'm not seeing are any dimensions. And this is one of the things that I like to make sure I add into my model view, because we have a very handy tool in the model view environment that allows you to very quickly add in your dimensions. So if you have inserted things like if you've inserted all of your walls, then all you really need to do now is go up and you need to select under settings, under document settings, you can select dimension auto exterior. And what this will do is it will bring up the properties for your auto exterior dimensions. So how do you want your dimension strings to be displayed? You can step through this and set up exactly how you want your dimensions to be displayed on your model. So that way, when you insert your exterior dimensions, they're going to automatically follow these defaults. So again, you can control what you're going to dimension to. You're going to control what the spacing of your dimension strings are. How do you want your extension lines to be displayed? How do you want your opening dimensions to be displayed? What are we dimensioning to in itself? Are we dimensioning to the veneer, to the core center, to the core interior, or to the interior surface? And if you have interior walls selected, you can actually dimension on the exterior where all of your interior walls intersect an exterior wall. And then you can control where you want that interior dimension string to be displayed on your exterior string. So again, are you going to be showing to the leading or trailing edge of the surface, to the leading or trailing edge of the core, or to the center of the interior wall? If you don't have interior selected like I do not, it will be grayed out and you can't select anything. You can also control your auto interior dimensions in a very similar way. You can again adjust how you want your dimension strings to be displayed. Are you dimensioning to the leading or trailing edge of the surface, the leading or trailing edge of the core, or to the center of the core itself? And I'm just going to change mine to be to the leading and trailing edge of the surface. And then we have an ignore wall dimensions. So when you draw a line through your model to insert your interior dimension strings, it's going to give you the option to draw a line through, and every wall that you cross, it will add in the wall thickness dimension. So if you don't want to show that, you can simply put a check mark in here, and it will remove that wall thickness from your dimension string. So you're only going to see the distances from surface to surface, not wall thickness, surface to surface, wall thickness, surface to surface. So again, you can play around with that to figure out what's going to work best for you. I'm going to leave mine to set ignore wall dimensions. And then I'm just going to say apply and then OK. Now all I have to do is go up to Tools, Dimensions, and I can select Auto Exterior Dimensions. And it's going to automatically dimension my entire plan for me with just that one click. Because I set up my dimensions in my settings, it takes all of that in consideration. And with just one simple click of the mouse, it's going to dimension my entire plan for me. If I wanted to dimension my interior spaces, which I don't really need to do in this particular case because I have dimensions showing underneath each of my room names. But if I wanted to show dimensions on the interior, I can again go up to Tools, Dimensions, and select Auto Interior Dimensions. And this one works a little bit different. So since we don't know exactly where your walls are or where you want your dimension strings to run, we give you the ability to create a line through your model, and then you can show where you want those dimension strings to be. I always start from the extreme, so I go from the outside to the outside, and I just left click to insert them. So now it's going to show me the the thicknesses or the widths of each room from surface to surface. If I go back up to settings and document settings and dimension auto interior, and I uncheck ignore, apply and OK, and I do that exact same tool again, I go to Tools, Dimensions, Auto Interior, and I run a dimension string through. Now I'm going to see the thickness of the wall, the thickness of the width of the room, the thickness of the wall. So again, depending on how you want things to be displayed, you can have that option turned on or off. And I'm just going to edit, undo. I'm just going to get rid of that. And we're just going to get rid of these dimensions here. So again, you can play around with that option, see which one works best for you. And again, whatever is going to be the most prevalent in your drafting experience, you're going to want to use that option for your designs. And I'm just going to get rid of all these dimensions here. And now that we have our dimensions added in, now we can switch back to our working drawing sheets. We're going to go back to floor plan. Once we're in our floor plan, we can see that we have our title block. And now all we need to do is define what we want to insert into this particular title block. In this case, I want this to be my floor plan on my ground floor. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go up. And if you like to use the menu, you can select Insert, Smart Views, Define Smart View. If you like to use the tabs, underneath the Insert tab, you'll have the Smart Views button. And then the little drop down will allow you to select Define Smart View. In this Define Smart View dialog, you're going to have a couple of different options. We are inserting a 2D plan of our floor plan. So I want to make sure that I am on 2D plan. The other thing I want to point out is the name. By default, because again, we don't know what you're going to be inserting, it's going to give it a generic name. And this one is just going to be 2D Plan 1. If you are inserting multiple plans in your design, it's going to go 2D Plan 1, 2D Plan 2, 2D Plan 3, and so on, making it very difficult to know what view is what when you are looking at updating views or deleting views out. So I always recommend making sure you give this a unique name. So in this case, I know that I'm going to be inserting the ground floor plan first. So I'm going to highlight the name and I'm just going to go ground floor plan. Now I'm going to make sure that I'm on the ground floor location. I'm going to make sure I have it set to the correct scale. I want this to be at 1/4 inch is equal to a foot. I want it to be a drawing, but I also want to control exactly what I'm inserting. So I'm going to use my view filter. So I'm going to click on the little eyeball here, and underneath the eyeball or the view filter, I can now control exactly what is going to be visible in this drawing. So the first thing I want to do is uncheck all locations. With all locations selected, it's going to insert everything on every location. So I'm going to see the ground floor plan, but I'm also going to see all the lines from my foundation, from my second floor, if I have a third floor, if I have a roof, all of those elements will be turned on. I don't want that to happen. I just want to see just the ground floor. So I'm going to select foundation and I'm going to select display none. I'm going to select second floor and I'm going to say display none. Now I'm only seeing elements on the ground floor and I can further refine what I want and don't want to see. So right now I don't have the roofs option turned on. So I'm not going to see the roofs in this plan view. I will add in a roof plan later as a default sheet. So I don't want to see all the extra lines that bring up or that are made up with the roof. So I'm just going to turn roofs off. You can turn off interior elements if you don't want to show where the furniture is going to be in this plan. You can turn all that elements off as well. So whatever you don't want to see, you're going to close the eye beside that. As for elements on terrain, I don't need to show where the terrain is. Again, I'm just showing the floor plan of my design. On notation, if I have things in here like imported drafting, or maybe I don't want to show text and dimensions, I can turn all of those options off again by just closing the eye to turn them off. And then viewing aids, you can show where the section marks are going to be, or you can turn them off. I'm going to leave them on for now so you can see how that looks. And then we're just going to simply say OK to that view filter. Now, what you see is what you get in this little area here. So if my plan is off to the side like this, and if I insert this, I'm only going to see this part of the floor plan. So I want to make sure that everything is in view. And what I typically do is I just hit zoom extents, and then I hit zoom out about 3 or 4 times, just to make sure that everything is visible in that area. Again, I have it set up to be a 2D plan with a custom name. It's the ground floor at 1/4 inch scale, set up as a drawing because I want to show it with lines. If it was set as an image, it would be a pixelated image of the plan view. So again, I want to make sure it's set to drawing. I adjusted the view filter and I've now positioned it exactly where I want. I simply select insert, and now attached to my cursor is that floor plan, and I can left click and drop it in to my title block. That adds in just that ground floor plan onto that working drawing sheet. So now we're going to look at adding detail to our inserted views. So if you want to edit an inserted view, you can also add various types of information to your drawing, such as lines, shapes, hatching, detailing, text, and dimensions. We're going to select the Modify pull-down menu, and you can use any of the tools in this menu to physically manipulate any of the objects that you have added. So again, you can use the Move tool, the Rotate, the Duplicate, Array, again, all of the different options there, or you can use the Modify tab to get to the same controls. If you select the Draw menu option or the Draw tab, you're going to get the ability to see a list of variety of elements that allow you to add in drawing features like lines, shapes, hatching, and details such as insulation. If you go to the Tools menu or to the Tools tab, you're going to be able to find a variety of text and dimension tools to help you again annotate your plan further. Just a quick note here to remember that the extra lines and hatch that you add here are not linked back to your model. So any modifications you make here will not be reflected in your model or any subsequent views you insert. If you want to make changes other than line work changes, it is best to make them in your model view first. Changes you make in your worksheet view will mainly be for line work changes. We're going to add in some bat insulation. So I'm going to go over and I'm just going to select on my details tab. I've already inserted a section of my plan, and I'm going to add in some bat insulation. Now, in here, I am seeing the actual section view of the plan itself. So what I'm looking at, and if I just go into redefine, it's going to bring up the redefine of that view. And I'm just going to move it so that everything is visible. And what I've done here is it's just going to be a section at a 1/4 inch scale. It's going to be a drawing once again. In my view filter, I've gone through and I've made sure that everything is enabled. Now, the other thing that I've done in here is underneath my floors, roofs, walls, I have made sure that the wall framing is enabled. I want to see the framing of my walls, floors, and roofs so that I can see exactly where the lumber is going to be in those designs. So I've just made sure that I've unchecked the lock option and then I've turned on the framing for, again, floors, roofs, and walls. And then I'm just going to say update to that. And just so you can see that it does add that in and we can see how that view works. And you can, again, like I mentioned, move this around so you can place it exactly where you want in your design. Now that I can see my plan, I want to add in some further detail. So I'm going to zoom in on this area right here. So this is showing me my framed wall. And this framed wall should have bat insulation in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to, and I'm going to select again, either under the menu option, Draw, Details, Bat Insulation, or under the Draw tab. The very last button is Details. Use the drop down and select Bat Insulation. The command will become active, and you can see in the lower left-hand corner in the commander, it says, pick your first insertion point. When you're inserting your bat insulation, you want to define the run of the insulation. So in this case, the run of our insulation is going to be from the bottom to the top. And then we're going to pick our point to there. The third point is the thickness of the bat insulation. So in this case, I want this to be the total thickness of my wall core. So I'm going to go right to the edge of the wall core. So now I'm seeing the bat insulation in that area. If I was adding batt insulation into the attic space, then I would again do the same process, select the batt insulation, pick my first point, but again, I'm running across this area, and then I'm going to include the thickness of that batt insulation. Now, as you can see in my commander, it shows me a distance variable, and it's highlighted in blue. So if I only want this to be 8 inches of batt insulation or blown in insulation, I'm just going to make sure that I just type in 8 and hit enter, and it's now going to show me the correct thickness for that insulation in that attic space. So again, you can control, again, with just clicks of the mouse where you want your details to go, or you can add in actual values of what you want that detail to represent. Some of the other details you can add in are, again, things like the wood section. So anytime you cut through a piece of wood, you can say, well, I want that wood section to show up as an X. You don't have to do it for every single one, because once you've added in one, you can simply select one and then right click and select duplicate. And then you can duplicate this around, which is a lot quicker than trying to add it in for every single one. And then I just simply go through and I just very quickly add in all of my wood sections through these areas. Now, when it comes to headers, I will drop one in anyways. And then what I do is I come back afterwards and I just modify it, and I'll show you what I do there. So again, I'm just going to add in all of the masonry for these particular areas. And then I say finish. If one got inserted in the wrong spot, I just simply select it and then I move it so that it sits in the correct spot. And for areas like this where I have a header, what I do here is I just simply manipulate it. I just grab these little blue squares and I just stretch them to where I want them to go. And then once I'm happy with it, I duplicate it over to create the other header. So again, over here, where did I add? There it is. I just simply select it, stretch it to the bottom, stretch it across, and then duplicate. So you can very quickly annotate your plans by using those tools. And we're just going to escape, move, like so. We can also add in linear dimensions to our section views or to our elevation views. So if you want to add it in a linear dimension, you can go up to, again, and select Tools, Dimensions, and Linear Dimension. Or you can select the Tools tab and select the Linear Dimension button. You can then bring your mouse into your drawing area and you can say, well, I know from the top of wall to bottom of wall should be 8 foot. So I'm going to make sure that that is set, and I'm going to see that dimension string, and I'm just going to bring my mouse out. The third click defines the distance away that you want that dimension to be. So first click is top of wall or bottom of wall. Second click is bottom of wall or top of wall, depending on the direction you're going. And then the third click is how far away you want that dimension string to sit. And then I'm just going to left click to place that dimension string in. I can now see that that wall is 8 feet high. I'm going to go to the elevations page. And on the elevations page, I can see that I have some elevations already inserted. So again, I use the define or the insert smart view option to insert an elevation. And now what I can do is I can go in and I can add in text. So if I want to annotate the exterior or the elevations of my design, I can again simply use the annotate options to do that. So again, underneath the Tools tab or underneath the Tools menu, you're going to be able to select the text option. Now, there's a couple of different text options available to you. You can use the text with leader option. And what this option does is it will allow you to type in the text that you want. So as an example here, I'm going to hit cap locks on my keyboard to turn the cap locks on. And I'm just going to type in asphalt shingles. And then I'm going to say, okay. Now I'm going to pick my point on where I want this to go. So it says pick first insertion point. The first insertion point is going to be the first point, so the arrow point of your leader. So I want to make sure that that is the first thing that I select. Now, I have ortho turned on, so it's only going to allow me to draw in 90-degree angles. Typically, your leader lines will be probably on a 45-degree angle. So you can hit F6 on your keyboard to activate the angle snap option. And the angle snap option will allow you to snap to every 15 degrees. So here I can see I'm at 45. I just left click again, move my mouse to the right, and left click once again to now define that asphalt shingle. That way works great for just annotating however you want your views to be annotated. So you can again pick the area that you want, type in the value that you want to add in. So again, we typed in asphalt shingles. But we do have another feature that will allow you to basically just select the element itself, and it will call up the information from that element. So as an example, if I want to annotate this window, I can use an option called description with leader. What this will do is it will allow me to select an element. So here it's going to see that I've selected the window. I'm going to just left click once on that window, and I'm going to again drop in my points, and it's now going to call that up as a 4 foot by 4 foot 11 double casement window. So whatever the name of that element is in my model view, so we did the window over here. If I select it, I can see that it's calling it up as a 4 foot by 4 foot 11 double casement window. And in my elevations, it's going to show that window. So I can see exactly what that's calling up. Again, just another handy way of annotating your plans. If it already has the name of an element, you can use that option to quickly annotate your designs. Now, whatever the typing is in your catalog, so if you do use upper and lowercase in your catalog, it's going to show that exact same alphanumeric display in your description. So if you like to show all capitals, then you're going to have to make all of the elements in your catalog all capitals as well. Or you can simply just go through and underneath the contents, you can adjust it accordingly. It again all depends on what's going to work best for you. The next thing I want to go over is updating any of my views with any changes that I've made to my model. So your model should be as complete and final as possible before creating your working drawings. However, last-minute changes are sometimes inevitable. If you make any changes to your model in your model view after you have created your working drawings, you can use the Update Smart Views tool to instantly apply changes to an inserted view in your worksheet view. For example, if you add a window to the model and then update a smart view, the window will then appear in your smart views as well. Just note that the Update Smart View tool does not work on smart views that have been exploded. So if you've ever exploded a smart view, it is now just a line drawing. So any updates that will be applied will not be applied to those. So let's go back to our model view. And let's say, as an example, they want to add in another window in the garage. So I'm going to simply select this window, and I'm just going to say duplicate. And I'm just going to duplicate this window over to here. I'm going to also adjust the position. So I want this window to be 3 feet from that corner, and I want it to be 3 feet from there. So I've now changed not only the position, but I've added in another window. As you can see, my dimensions aren't correct. So I'm going to go back up to Tools, Dimensions, and I'm just going to select Auto Exterior Dimensions. It's going to give you a warning saying, hey, you already have dimensions added in. Are you sure you want to do this? In this case, yes, I do want to update with the new dimension strings. And it now shows me the new dimension strings for that view. Now, when I go into my working drawing sheets, not only did I change the floor plan, but I also changed the elevation. So I could go in and simply select each one and say update smart view, or I can go up and underneath my smart view, so under insert and using the drop down. So again, if you like to use the menu under insert, smart views, update smart view global, or under insert drop down, update smart views global. And what this will do is it will give me the option to select the views that I want to update. So now in here, as you can see, there are a bunch of different views already created. And I know that this view right here is the front elevation 1. So I want to make sure that I unselect everything except for the front elevation 1 and the ground floor plan, because I gave that a custom name. With those two options selected, all I have to do is say update. And what that will do is it will now update that smart view to show that new change. Now, in this case, the hatching was added in on top of the smart view. So I'm going to delete that hatching out, and I can go in and I can apply new hatching for that smart view itself. And I'm just going to move my dimensions, or my leader line, sorry, pardon me, and we're going to move that over. And now I'm going to go up to Draw, Boundary Hatch, and I'm going to say I want that to be brick or whatever pattern I want to use, and I can control where I want this to go. So I'm going to select Insert Boundaries, and I want it to insert just in that area, and I'm going to hit Enter. Do I want to include under the options the pattern and the boundary? Well, I just want the pattern. I don't need the boundary. I want the boundary to be my actual wall line. So I'm going to uncheck Include Boundary, and then I can say Preview. And I can very clearly see how that brick is going to look. And that looks great. So I'm going to hit Enter, and I've now re-added in that boundary hatch for that area. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to delete all of this out because I do want to show you and take a moment to insert an elevation. And I want to do this because there are certain things that happen when you insert an elevation view into your working drawing sheets. So if I go up and I select Define Smart View, and I select an elevation, I can choose the elevation that I want to bring in. So in this case, I'm going to insert the rear elevation. I can control exactly what I insert. I can also control what is going to be included. So again, using the view filter option, I want to make sure that the roofs are turned on. But the one thing I want to take advantage of is a template. Now, underneath this template option, there is an elevation. And what this will do when I apply it is it will automatically go through and it will turn off any elements that are on the interior. So what Envisioneer does when it creates an elevation view is it takes the 3D model and it analyzes it. It then takes everything that is being included. So if you've added in interior furniture, interior plumbing, appliances, cabinetry, all of that needs to be analyzed. And it will take a little bit of time because the elevation has to go through and say, is this going to be included in the elevation? Do I need to add in lines for those elements? So if you have a sink added in or a toilet added in, even though you're not going to see it on that elevation because you only see elements on the exterior, it still analyzes all of that. So it takes that time to do it. So by selecting this elevation template, we're basically saying you're inserting an exterior elevation. None of these elements matter. So let's just turn them off. That way I don't have to analyze them. And when I say okay, and I set this to be a hidden line view or maybe a pattern view, all I have to do now is just simply say insert, and that's how quick it inserts those elevations. So if you're finding that your elevations are taking a while to insert, it's probably because you have the interior elements still turned on. So it has to analyze all of those elements. So I just like to point that out because it is a very time consuming, a very good time saving step to make sure you set up that elevations template. Now that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk about in today's class. So I'm going to go over a quick review of what we've covered. So if you do happen to have any questions about anything, now is the time to go ahead and enter those in. And then once I'm done going over the review, I will answer any questions that may have come up. So again, just to review, once you have built your model in your model view, you can create your construction documents in your worksheet views. To create a construction document, you will first open a worksheet view and then insert your views of your model onto your worksheets, such as your floor plans, your elevations, sections, or any 3D views that you want to display. And then you can add any further detail to them if necessary. In Envisioneer, there are two distinct work environments, your model view and your worksheet view. Your model view is where you construct and edit your model, and then your worksheet views is where you're going to prepare your views to be printed out. The model view window in which you create your model, there are four, and then there are also four predefined worksheet views. So you have your floor plans, your elevations, your details, and your site plans. Selecting one of the view tabs next to your model tab takes you into that worksheet view. Before inserting a floor plan into a drawing sheet, you want to make sure that you take advantage of the auto exterior dimension and the auto interior dimension tools. You can use the draw menu to add in lines, shapes, hatching, and details to your worksheets. Text and dimension tools are also found underneath the tools menu. And you want to make sure that your model is as complete as possible before you start creating your working drawing sheets. But if any last minute changes do come up, you can make those changes in model, and then you can use the Update Smart View or the Update Smart Views Global tools to change and update those inserted views. So I'm going to, again, just pause here for just a moment to see if there's any questions. I'm not seeing any questions at the moment. So again, I'm just going to pause here for a moment to see if any questions come up. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the class, I will be sending out an email that contains a document, and that document will contain everything that we've gone through in today's class. So if you have any questions while going through that document, please don't hesitate. You can contact our support department, and they'll be happy to help you out with any questions you might have. Perfect. Well, there doesn't appear to be any questions at this time, so I do want to thank everybody for attending today. I do look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. Thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.